Good afternoon. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Maen Hudson 37. This watch is available from maenwatches.com for €749. So firstly, let's look at the box that the watch comes in, and then I'll talk you through the other items one gets with the piece. So the watch comes in a watch box which is protected by this black cardboard outer sleeve one removes. This is the outer box for the travel case. One removes the lid, pulls down the flap, and as you can see, the watch comes in a PU leather travel case. Maen is embossed to a high standard, flawless stitching around the perimeter of the PU leather travel case, 2 stainless steel poppers securing the flap. And the watch sits on a padded pillow cushion in the base, as one would expect, and there are 2 stainless steel poppers either side of the padded pillow cushion. The cushion is upholstered to a high standard with a grey velour fabric which contrasts with the PU black leather, and the poppers snap together very well, so it's a very well executed design, and it makes a credible alternative to using the lower cost default option of a plastic or cardboard watch box. And Maen deserve full credit for this, because they could have just supplied the watch in a plastic or cardboard watch box, but this PU leather travel roll is higher quality, and immediately one gets the impression that the Hudson 37 is a high quality piece. There's a tray in the base of the outer cardboard watch box, and that houses the following items which I'll show you. So with the watch one gets this thank you card, and it has their Instagram at Maen Watches. One also gets this plastic card, and on the reverse it certifies that the Hudson 37 is a certified Swiss-made piece. The movement is regulated in La Chaux-de-Fonds in Switzerland, and also the watch is assembled and the quality control takes place in La Chaux-de-Fonds, Switzerland also. So it really is a genuine Swiss-made piece, which is very impressive, bearing in mind it's a mid-tier price point piece at €749. One also gets this plastic card, and on the reverse it gives you the website address to download the manual, and Maen deserve credit for this, because this is innovative. Rather than printing out a paper booklet with the owner's instruction manual, one can simply download it from their website, and it also gives you the contact email address if you need any support with your watch, support@maenwatches.com. So the customer service is there. The watch is covered by a 2-year international warranty, which again is very impressive. Usually at this price point, €749, one would expect a 12-month international warranty. To get 2 years of warranty at this price is excellent. So with regards to the specifications of the piece, this is the Maen Hudson 37. We have a 37mm case diameter. We have a 47.6mm lug-to-lug measurement, a thickness of 10mm. The integrated lug width at the widest point is 22mm, and the bracelet tapers from 22mm at the integrated lugs down to 16mm at the 2-button push deploying clasp. As you can see, the deploying clasp is signed to a high standard with an embossed M for Maen, which is in Garamond font, and the Garamond font of the M matches the M on the hex crown, and also the Garamond fonts used on the Maen brand logo at 12 o'clock on the dial, so there is good continuity. With regards to the 2-button push deployment, it's very well executed. Good foam resistance to the 2-button push triggers, and both halves of the deployment open very smoothly. Flawless brushed satin finishing to the solid 316L grade stainless steel deployment clasp. The quality of the milled deployment is outstanding. I like the foam resistance to the 2-button push triggers. No sharp edges, no burrs, the hinge pins are tight, they don't have extra play, and the quality of the finishing is incredible for this price point. This is a mid-tier piece, but the quality of the brushed satin finishing is the kind of finishing one would expect to see on a high-tier piece costing circa €10,000. So it's handed, one has to close the right-hand portion first, and then the left-hand portion overlaps with the embossed Maen M, as you can see. So it's a very well executed 2-button push deployment. With regards to the rest of the specification, we have a flat sapphire crystal with blue tinted AR coating on the underside, and the blue tinted anti-reflective coating does an outstanding job of reducing the glare and the highly reflective nature of the silver mirror polished applied indices and the silver mirror polished handset. Now Maen deserve full credit for this, because they've come up with their original design for the handset, which is a characteristic of all Maen watches, and this Hudson 37 uses the Maen hands. They're not baton hands, they're their own unique design, and I think they really do deserve credit, because they didn't just copy baton hands or alternatively Mercedes hands, which so many micro brands do within the mid-tier. This is unique to Maen watches. The proportion of the minute hand is correct. It extends all the way to the white minute ticks on the chapter ring, and also the proportion of the needle point second hand is correct because that also extends to the minute ticks. These are the fundamental design characteristics that so many microbrands get incorrect. Often they undersize the hands. The hands are too short to extend to the minute ticks, but both the minute hand and the second hand are correct. With regards to the design, I really like the 1970s aesthetic of this. It looks like a Gerald Genter design piece. It looks similar to an Audemars Piguet Royal Oak, or alternatively a Patek Philippe Nautilus. It has that Gerald Genter design, and the bezel is finished to perfection. So the head of the piece is solid 316L grade stainless steel, including the bezel and the caseback. The brush satin finishing has a beautiful lustre to it, to the bezel and also the head of the piece, and also contrasting mirror polishing to the edges of the bezel. This is some of the best case finishing I have ever seen at this price point. It really is the kind of finishing to a head of the piece one would expect to see on a high-tier piece costing circa €10,000. To get this at €749 is incredible. The integrated lugs are also finished to perfection. Flawless brush satin finishing, no sharp edges, no sharp corners to the tips of the lugs. And the quality of the brush satin finishing on the flanks is just incredible. Beautiful lustre to the longitudinal brush satin finishing. No sharp edges to the flanks, no sharp edges to the undercuts. So it really is some of the best case finishing I have seen. With regards to the crown, it's a hex crown, which is solid 316L grade stainless steel, embossed with the Maen M, which is in Garamond font, as I've detailed. Absolute flawless mirror polishing to it, no sharp edges to the corners to the hex crown. It's a push-pull crown which provides an effective hermetic seal to 50 meters, which is perfectly acceptable for a daily wear piece. So let's test the push-pull crown execution. In the closed position, one can manually wind the Ronda caliber R150 to top it up to its maximum 40-hour power reserve. Absolutely silky smooth, one can feel the tension in the mainspring gradually building up. Now, as it's a caliber R150 automatic, it does have a date complication. The date wheel is present beneath the dial, although it doesn't have a date window or date complication. So therefore there is a phantom date setting position with the caliber R150. In the first click position, we're now in the quick set date complication position, and when one rotates the crown anti-clockwise in the first click position, one can feel the date complication clicking over because it does have a quick set complication. Pulling it out to the second click hacks the movements, and if you look at the second hand closely, you can see it's now stopped dead. So with the caliber R150, it's possible to stop the second hand dead and set the time precisely to the second. No backplay, clockwise or anti-clockwise. Now it does have a firmer resistance than the Sellita SW200-1 or the ETA 2824-2, which you may be familiar with. Personally, I like the firm resistance to the gearing. It does feel very smooth despite being having more resistance than an SW200-1. No backplay, clockwise and anti-clockwise. There's an immediate response. When one rotates the hex crown clockwise or anti-clockwise, the minute hand immediately responds, and I like the lack of backplay. It feels like a nice tight solid movement. So absolute pleasure to set the time, very smooth, but the only negative is it has a phantom date setting position. Pushing it back in fully, it's got a nice positive click, and that restarts the movement. You can see the second hand begins to sweep around the dial once again at 4 Hz. So no negatives to the movement whatsoever, and no negatives to the crown execution. It's perfectly acceptable to have a push-pull crown on a daily wear piece. This isn't a dive watch, and therefore 50 meters is perfectly acceptable. It doesn't need 200 meters of hermetic seal as per a screw-down crown. The positive, the benefits of it being a push-pull crown is one doesn't have to pull out the crown in order to manually wind it. One can simply manually wind it with the crown closed, and the 50 meters of hermetic seal is there all the time. Right, so I'll show you the case back. Solid 316L grade stainless steel, sterile centre section with longitudinal brush satin finishing, which contrasts with the flawless mirror polishing to the circumference, coin edge finished and very low profile. This piece is only 10mm thick, and if you look at the flat case back, you can see the benefit of it only having 50 meters of water resistance. If this were 100 meters or 200 meters water resistant, the case back would need to be thicker, because bear in mind it houses an automatic, it's not a manual wind mechanical movement, and it's not a quartz powered piece. This is an automatic with a rotor, and therefore the case back needs to have enough clearance to clear the rotor, but it's incredibly flat. It's the kind of flat, low profile case back one would expect with a quartz or a manual wind mechanical movement piece. Very flat and low profile, so it's very comfortable against the wrist. They've made the correct decision by making the centre section sterile rather than engraving it or embossing it, because it means it's very smooth and comfortable against the wrist. The integrated end links of the bracelet have screws, as you can see, rather than using spring bars, and therefore they are a good tight fit. The quality of the flathead screws is perfection personified. The milled slots in the screw down case back are finished to perfection, no sharp edges to the milled slots. The teeth on the coin edge finishing are also finished to perfection, no sharp edges to the teeth. Nice large chamfer machined to the top edge of the teeth on the coin edge teeth, so it doesn't dig into the skin when one flexes the wrist. So this is a very comfortable case back. The end links in the integrated bracelet are finished to perfection. No sharp edges to the undersides of the flanks of the case. So again, this is the kind of finishing to a case back, the integrated lugs and the head of the piece that one would expect to see on a high tier piece costing circa €10,000. With regards to the bracelet, it's one of my favourite aspects of the piece. Integrated lugs. Now, as you can see, the end link in the integrated bracelet, which tapers from 22 down to 16, articulates very well. This is often a problem with integrated lugs. They have lugs which are like male end links, and the problem is the end link in the bracelet isn't able to articulate, so one gets an abhorrent gap beneath the integrated lugs. But this has a relatively short lug-to-lug measurement of 47.6, and also the end link in the integrated bracelet is able to articulate rather like female end links, as you can see, and it works very well because one doesn't get the usual abhorrent gap. If you look, that's the amount of articulation we're getting, so the end link in the bracelet can actually pull underneath the tips of the lugs and articulate very well to get a very snug fit against the wrist. Now, unfortunately, I can't give you a wrist shot because this bracelet has been sized for a wrist size which is too short. It will fit to a 6 to 7 inch wrist with no difficulties whatsoever, but if you have a larger wrist of 7 to 8 inches, you may need to ask Maen to add some additional links, which isn't a problem, but this will fit a 6 to 7 inch wrist. I really like the aggressive taper from 22 down to 16, as you can see. This is a nice aggressive taper and it really does work very well. Although it's a 37mm head of the piece, it does wear larger. It wears more like a 39 due to the Gerald Genter style of case. It's like a 1970s case, and the actual head of the piece does look visually more like a 39. It does have the wrist presence of a 39 despite it being only 37, and that's partly due to the large lug width of the integrated lugs, 22 tapering down to 16. The links in the integrated bracelet articulate very smoothly. There's no extra play in the links, they're not sloppy, it doesn't rattle, but it doesn't kink. Every one of the links is finished to a very high standard and it articulates very smoothly. I'm just going to check the other side for continuity. Absolutely silky smooth. I love the articulation of the links. This is what one is paying for. It's a level above low tier pieces such as San Martin pieces which use integrated bracelets, and this is €749 and one is getting what one is paying for because you can see the smoothness. The other thing I really like about this is there are two large bevels machined to every one of the links. If you look at the top edge, on the flanks, you have a large mirror polished bevel to the top edge and also the underside, and that means there's no sharp edges to the flanks, and also there are no gaps in the centre links and therefore it doesn't catch arm hairs and pull arm hair. So very smooth. The brush satin finishing to the top side, underside and flanks is done to perfection. Also, they deserve credit for using screw pins rather than the cost-cutting measure of using push pins, so there are no cost-cutting measures with this bracelet whatsoever, and the taper 22 down to 16 is correct. Right, so let's do a lume test and we'll see how the lume performs when it's charged up to the absolute maximum. So as always, I'm going to use my 100 UV LED torch to charge it up to the absolute peak. Right, so that's now fully charged, and as you can see, it has not disappointed. This is C1X1 Superluminova. X1 is top grade Superluminova. It gives it brightness, but the C1 gives it a characteristic green tone, which is similar to C3. C1 is slightly lighter green than C3, and the X1 gives it more potency. The exciter is brighter, it glows brighter white, and it also glows for a longer length of time. So combining C1 with X1 gives a good combination because we have the green tone of C1, which is brighter than C3, but we also have the added potency of X1, which is whiter and therefore glows brighter. This is clearly 5 to 6 layers of C1X1 superluminova, both on the handset and also the applied indices. The indices are correctly proportioned, perfect symmetry to the dial. One can clearly orientate the dial because there are larger applied indices at 9, 6, 3 and 12, and smaller indices, they're slightly narrower on the other hour marks. Now the proportion of the hands is correct. Shorter hour hand, it's easy to differentiate it from the longer minute hand. And as you can see, we've also got 5 to 6 layers on the silver mirror polished handset. So it's an example to other micro brands at this price point how to get it correct. This is 5 to 6 layers. They haven't used the cost-cutting measure of 2 to 3 layers. This is C1X1 and 5 to 6 layers on the indices and 5 to 6 layers on the hands. So better performance than one would get with C3 and equal performance to BGW9. I really like the use of C1X1. It's a nice combination between green and also white. And as you can see, it's still not fading. Perfect colour tone match between the green on the hands and also the green on the indices. It's 10 out of 10 performance and I'm very pleased with it. Right, so let's discuss the movement used because it's one of my favourite aspects of the piece. So this uses the Ronda Calibre R150 automatic. The Calibre R150 is the only automatic movement that Ronda make. Ronda are well respected for making high quality quartz movements in Switzerland, and the Calibre R150 is the only automatic they make. So it's been in use since 2016. It's a reliable, well-proven workhorse Swiss movement. It has 25 joules and it runs at 28,800 vibrations per hour and a frequency of 4 Hz. Now, I regard 28,800 vibrations per hour to be the perfect compromise. It is the sweet spot, the perfect balance, the compromise between accuracy and power reserve. If one increases the beat rate of a movement, the movement becomes more accurate, but the negative trade-off is one loses power reserve. For example, if one exceeds 28,800 vibrations per hour, yes, one can get a more accurate movement, but therefore one loses the 40-hour power reserve. One has to sacrifice it. With 4 Hz and 28,800 vibrations per hour, it's very well balanced. One can get chronometer grade accuracy, but one can also get good power reserve at 40 hours. So if you look at the second hand, you can see it's got a nice smooth 4 Hz sweep. Had they used a movement with 21,600 vibrations per hour and a frequency of 3 Hz, the second hand wouldn't sweep as smoothly. It would stutter or judder around the dial as per a 3 Hz movement such as the Seiko NH35A, which you'll all be familiar with. So this is something I like about 4 Hz movements. They have a nice smooth sweep to the second hand, good balance between accuracy and power reserve. This has hand winding and hacking as I've demonstrated, which useful complications. The negative of the Calibre R150 is it's a date complication movement, and in this case the date wheel is present beneath the dial, so we do have that phantom date setting position in the first click position on the crown. That's something to bear in mind. It's subjective. For the majority of collectors, having a phantom date setting position isn't a problem, but some collectors find it annoying to have an extra click on the crown and having to pull out the crown to 2 clicks in order to hack the movement and get to the time setting position. So 40 hours is perfectly acceptable. In terms of accuracy, the stated accuracy of the Calibre R150 is plus or minus 12 seconds per day. Ronda regulate the Calibre R150 in 2 positions. Plus or minus 12 is acceptable. Now, this one is very well regulated. I'm pleased to report that Maen are well regulating the Ronda Calibre R150s they're using in the Hudson 37. This one is running consistently at plus 6 seconds per day. So plus 6 is well within the plus or minus 12 stated accuracy. And it's actually within cost chronometer limits of minus 4 to plus 6 seconds per day. So no negatives to it whatsoever. It's a reliable, well-proven workhorse Swiss calibre. To put it into perspective, the Calibre R150 is equal quality to the Sellita SW200-1 or alternatively the ETA 2824-2. It's a popular misconception that it's a clone of the ETA 2824-2 because it does share a similar specification and it's not a clone of the SW200-1 either. It has 25 joules and yes, it does run at 28,800 vibrations per hour and 4 Hz as per the ETA 2824-2. The architecture of the R150 is similar to the ETA 2824-2, but there are some differences to the architecture. The rotor is different, so it's not a clone of the ETA 2824-2, which the SW200-1 is. But in terms of build quality, materials, reliability, quality control and accuracy, I regard the caliber R150 to be equal to the SW200-1. In terms of dimensions, it's exactly the same as the ETA 2824-2 in thickness and also diameter. But the benefit of using it is that this piece is only 10mm thick, and it's something I really like about this Hudson 37. It's an incredibly low profile piece. Very low profile flat crystal. It's only 50 meters hermetic seal, as is the Caseback, but the benefit of having a thin sapphire crystal and a thin Caseback is, as you can see, it's only 10mm. That is incredibly low profile for an automatic piece. It's the kind of thickness one would expect with an automatic, a mechanical manual wine piece, or alternatively a quartz. With an automatic, one would expect this to be circa 12mm. So to get this down to only 10mm with an automatic movement is incredible, and it's something that Maen deserve full credit for. I really like the low profile aspect of it. There's one other thing I really like about this piece above all. If you look at the dial, you can see it has vertical lines in it, which are Cotes de Genève finishing. And the Cotes de Genève finishing to it, the vertical stripes, as you can see, they change colour in the light. And I absolutely love the Cotes de Genève finishing to the dial, as you can see. They've also made the correct decision with this blue Cotes de Genève dial by using blue tinted AR coating, because the blue tinted hue of the AR coating complements the blue dial. And I absolutely love the way the vertical stripes in the dial change colour in the light. It adds interest to it. The quality of the mirror polishing to the applied indices and the quality of the mirror polishing to the handset is perfection personified. This is the kind of finishing to the indices and the kind of finishing on the mirror polished hands one would expect with a high tier piece costing circa €10,000. The handset finishing is Grand Seiko level. That is the level we're looking at, and I regard Grand Seiko hand finishing to be superior to Rolex and Omega. So to get this at only €749 is just incredible. So lastly, I'll summarise the piece. What do I think of it overall? Well, when I'm considering reviewing a watch on my channel, the watch should meet two criteria. It should be both excellent quality and excellent value at the respective price points. So the price point of this piece is €749. Yes, this is unquestionably excellent quality, and yes, it is unquestionably excellent value at €749. One is getting a Swiss-made piece with a quality Swiss-made caliber, the Ronda caliber R150. And as the first card details, this is certified Swiss-made. The movement is regulated in La Chaux-de-Fonds, Switzerland, and the watch assembly and quality control also takes place in La Chaux-de-Fonds, Switzerland. So it really is a genuine Swiss-made piece with a genuine Swiss-made caliber. Unbeatable value at €749. If you appreciate the aesthetic of Gerald Genta design from the 1970s, if you like the look of the Patek Philippe Nautilus and the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak, this is a credible alternative because it's a unique design. It's not a copy or an homage to the Royal Oak, and it's not a copy or homage to the Nautilus, but it does have that kind of 1970s Gerald Genta design, influences to the shape of the bezel and also the head of the piece and the integrated bracelet. No negatives to this piece whatsoever. The specification is strong. We have blue tinted AR coating, sapphire crystal, 40 hours of power reserve, plus 6 seconds per day accuracy, and 50 meters is perfectly acceptable. The quality of the integrated bracelet is outstanding. The quality of the 2-button push deployment is outstanding. No QC issues whatsoever. One is getting the kind of finishing one would expect with a high-tier piece costing €10,000 at a mid-tier price point of €749. Maen deserve full credit. Outstanding piece, no negatives. I'm going to highly recommend it to you for consideration. So I hope you've enjoyed my review of the Maen Hudson 37. Please feel free to post your own comments below the video. Thank you very much.